Hello there, welcome back. We had a quick short break. I hope you caught up with the other fellow attendees, the networking session. So thank you so much for, again, all the audience. You've been amazing today. And then we have Jasper out here, and then we have Mats, and then we have Mr. Shankar, who's going to moderate the entire fireside session. I'm not going to talk much. I think you already know the title, which is displayed on the right-hand side. I think so. Mr. Shankar is going to bring him a lot of fire right now in the talk. Okay, over to you, Mr. Shankar.
Good afternoon. My name is Shankar. I'm moderating my first panel today, so I'm a touch nervous. I'm joined today all the way from Aarhus in Denmark by Mats Riedal, co-founder and chief visionary officer of Unsilo, who incidentally are a new part of the Cactus Communication family, who are based in Mumbai. Also from Aarhus in Denmark is Jesper Algren from Invest in Denmark. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
So Mats, we are here to discuss how academia, research and business can work together to solve real world problems. So my question to you is, so is technology really solving all the right problems?
So I guess, so what is the right problem to solve? I just like in politics, there are many different approaches to answering or attempting to answer what are the most important problems to solve, right? We have, I guess we have the UN SDGs. That's one proposal for important problems to solve. But from a policy level, I guess, government level, in Denmark, we don't have the same traditions as other places for steering investment. In the US, you have government-run initiatives like DARPA and NASA, and the whole sort of military-industrial complex that's also weaved into government, which strongly directs the flow of investments. In Denmark, we have more of a tradition for public-private partnerships. We have independently run universities that make their own decisions about where to invest and where to do research, and then we have, of course, a lot of private funding bodies. I think over the last few years, we've seen other instruments influencing where the money flows, which are less sort of traditional capitalist decision points. Pension funds in Denmark, we have a very strong sort of social security network, and pension funds are really powerful investment vehicles. They've been shifting their investment focus from sort of oil and basically in the public. They've been seen to start investing more sustainably, and they're shifting the whole investment focus and the investment climate slightly away from sort of market share profits and user data. So now we're seeing some different flows of money, I think. So I think we're increasingly investing in the correct things, and we're increasingly driving technology to be developed to solve the right problems. But we still have a ways to go.
Sure. Okay, so Jesper, how would you describe the Nordic approach to research and innovation?
Yeah, but I think as Mats already said, that the Danish way or the Nordic way is very funded in the public-private partnerships way of doing collaboration and making sure that the ground research that is being done on the university is moved out and applied in private and public organizations. So as Mats said, also at the moment we have 8 universities here in Denmark, and they are independently run, which means that they can make their own decisions on how they will run each of these universities as well. But of course, they are still funded by the state. And also some of the research projects they are doing is also funded by the state. But they still have their own choice to do whatever they want, and of course have different strongholds as well. And then we have some incentives where, of course, the government is setting aside money. As Mads said, the SDGs is in a large focus now. And of course, the climate area, the green transition, and these areas. And then, of course, the government can put out different funds that focus on an area, which means that they are not dictating what people should be doing. But of course, if you want part of the funding that's dedicated to the green area, you need to make green solutions. So I think that it's really driven by a tradition of collaborating between different actors, and that's a really important part of the research community in Denmark in general.
We'll come back to the whole aspect of collaboration because I think that is something that the Nordics and Denmark in particular are really known for. Mats, Denmark has prided itself on its applied research capability. How has a startup like Consular really leveraged on that and to bring it to where you are?
So on Silo, we're actually fairly deeply embedded in the research community. Our main products are actually AI and text analytics products for the research community. So it's been very natural for us to interact with the universities because researchers are our core users, and we often though sell to scientific publishers, but the end user of the services that we often provide are researchers themselves. So we've also through our collaboration with I think most of the Danish universities and a few international universities, we've been recruiting directly from universities. Of course, we have strong engineering skills in the company, but it's also been important for us to hire people that are interested in the solutions that we're developing. So eating our own dog food, basically, by hiring researchers. And we've got, especially inside the EU, we have research exchange programs that allow foreign PhD and postgrads to sort of move around fairly easily between universities in the EU, and I think probably half of our workforce has been hired, our postgrads hired from mostly the local university. So we have 9 or 10 nationalities in our small team. and we pride ourselves on that sort of international flair. Secondly, of course, when you say applied research, that means that we're also, of course, focused on developing software with kind of a rigorous methodology. So we are using software or scientific testing principles. We are measuring progress very similar to the principles that people have been taught at university. So that's, I guess, that we are all about applied research.
Yes, but you work a lot with foreign companies, and I do understand that there are several examples and cases of foreign companies collaborating with research and academia in Denmark. Talk to us about some of the programs that are there that are available in Denmark for this.
Yeah, sure. Of course, in regards to R&D, there is the possibility to get access to all the EU funding as well, being based in Denmark. So it will actually give you access to Horizon 2020 and all these other programs, which of course also give the universities access to collaboration with other universities, both in Europe, but also in the rest of the world. And then, of course, there is more local incentive from the Danish government as well. We have one example is the Innovation Fund, which is putting out different kind of funding schemes for research that can be applied in companies for commercial purposes. So this is actually a way to drive out the research and then put it into a commercial use in companies as well, instead of it just being kept inside the university walls. They also provide these industrial and postdoc PhD programs where you can actually, as a company, can hire a PhD or postdoc that is employed in the company, but is also affiliated with a university, and then they will do joint research programs that can also enhance the value of technology and commercial aspects within the companies. So actually, you can say all these funding schemes that is in play is based on moving the companies to be more innovative based on research and new groundbreaking technology and knowledge. So this is some of the schemes that we have, and other than that, we have what's called research and technology organization that is approved by the Danish government, and we have 7 of these, which is actually put in to be bridgeheads between the universities and the companies. And what they mainly do is they focus on different areas. So actually, just next to me where I sit, we have the Alexandra Institute, which is one of the organizations that focus on the software side, AI and these areas. Then we have others that is more focused on industrial use of AI and other aspects of this, robotics and so forth. So actually, what you can say is that what they do is that they try to do some consultancy where they bridge between a university and a company in the areas where there is not a direct relation between a company and a university. And this is actually all put in place to support, of course, the vast amount of SMEs we have here in Denmark, because basically 99.9% of all companies in Denmark are SMEs, which is below 250 employees, and of course Onsilo is also, or at least they were. Now they are part of Cactus, so they are not an SME anymore. But Onsilo could also be a good example of actually a case that was brought from the prior solutions we had in Denmark, which was called Innovation Environments. They actually kicked off the first funding part for Mads and the rest of the team. So this is actually just to move these groundbreaking technologies and knowledge into a commercial setting where it can be used and leveraged in the world, that be in a societal aspect or in a commercial aspect, of course, because it can also be now with all the COVID part. There is a lot of research going on between university and hospitals trying to figure out, can they predict when a patient is supposed to be put in a respirator? Can it predict the disease spread and so forth? So I think that's, at least in short, some of the aspects that we have here in Denmark, and that's of course also working with the job I have, is trying to tell this story, and that is something that companies from around the world, also India, can tap into if they are based here, or if they have a base here.
Okay.
Okay. I see a little network drop. Shankar, can you mute your video so that your audio would be much more clear? Shankar? Yeah, can you mute your... Yes. Just mute your video in the bottom of the screen so you can have your clear audio. Yes, go ahead, Shankar. Shankar, go ahead. Okay. I think there's a network drop from Shankar's end, if you can see.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I can maybe continue from where Jesper left off. I think there's one of the challenges that we're facing in the software world is about openness versus competition. So we've had, I think, in software, there's been a history of trying to patent stuff and keep trade secrets. But in the last, I guess, decade or so, that has been rapidly changing. The power of open source software and of collaboration across companies, where innovation teams are actually moving around and getting reconfigured, and with companies like Google, Microsoft, and IBM letting their researchers and innovators publish their findings so that they can contribute to, you say, the greater good. There's a whole new dynamic in the software business where competitive parameters are much less about the technology that you develop and much more about the products that you build on top of them, and your ability to generate a good creative environment where your top talent can thrive and succeed. So building a good business now is less about competing on core technology and more about competing on human technology and parameters that allow your employees to succeed. We're, as a small company, we're relying heavily on technology that researchers at Google or Microsoft have pioneered. But of course, when we develop products on top of that, and we refine those technologies to make our products stand out, we're relying on top talent who, if we weren't good at what we do, might have moved to California. And so the world is increasingly global, and the fact that we in Denmark can attract top talent and retain top talent, keep them employed here, rather than a place that is arguably more central to the software industry, I think speaks volumes. We have most of our key employees have families. I've lived 5 years in San Francisco, so I can tell you it's not a place where you'd want to have a family. It's a very competitive environment. People work work hard, play hard. You work all week, and then you go out and hike in the weekends. It's not a place to raise kids. It's incredibly expensive to put your kids through school. In Denmark, it's free. Universities are free. We pay a ton of taxes, but it's not twice as much as you pay in the US. And everything is free. So it gives an incredible freedom and a very, very powerful competitive parameters to attract top talent, especially senior employees who have now had kids and want security and stability and all the things that a welfare state can offer.
In a world, I guess, where everybody is putting curbs on immigration, I think it's music to the ears of highly qualified talent that they are welcome in Denmark. Jesper, a quick question to you about any program that kind of helps and supports startups who may want to set up in Denmark. I did read about the Startup Denmark program. Just a few words on that.
Yeah, we also have the Startup Denmark program, which is actually also a funding scheme for foreign companies to come to Denmark. So at the same time, they will send in a business plan of their case, and then it will be reviewed, and then they will go. If it accepted, they can go for a fast-track visa as well. And then they have the opportunity to come here to Denmark to start up their company and work for 3 years. And then, of course, after that, there needs to be a focus on if they want to stay here or move on and so forth. But there is also funding that can be used then when setting up the startup here in Denmark to both dig into new research, but also to fund the company in general, both from the state side, but of course also for private actors, which would also be, we have a lot of business angels and company VCs that is also interesting in new technologies and trying to embed them into larger companies. So this actually makes it a good place also to do a startup, also because you have what we talked a lot about, this collaboration mentality that is in Denmark, and that is actually we don't see each other as competitors. Instead, there's actually an opportunity for a small startup to collaborate with the company next door or even in the next city and trying to make the best solution possible.
Mads, I know you will cover this in your keynote as well, but in a post-COVID world, the whole healthcare business is in huge focus. Talk to us briefly about how Unseilo is placed in this, and together with Cactus, what are you guys doing?
We're actually as we speak, we're working on creating yet another, you could say, COVID portal. Unseilo has been building text analytics for research for many years, and we're indexing all of the latest research on COVID from all of the sources. There's some competing literature sets that we've all pulled together. We're indexing the latest preprints from all of the biomedical preprint servers. We're translating articles from Chinese and Japanese, Korean, other Asian languages, and making them searchable in an English language interface. And it's supposed to be fairly intuitive and easy to use. we're still working on ways to make the site stand out. Cactus has a long history of providing services to researchers, and so there's also a community element to this that allows users or researchers to find each other, ask pertinent research questions to each other, and interact with other people active in the COVID research community.
Okay. So I think I'll stop now, and maybe we'll take some questions.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shankar. Attendees, I mean, quickly, we can have 2 questions to go with. So if you have any, you can just key it down in the question section, or maybe raise hand and come on stage and ask a question. So I think I'm pretty much curious, but I'm going to take the questions offline. I'm going to directly ask to Mads and Jasper later, about Denmark startup community as much as possible. But meanwhile, okay, I'm going to ask one question and then we can wind it up. I don't see any questions coming in. So with respect to the startup community, do you like to compare it with any other geography, Mads or Jasper, at Denmark? What's the kind of...
You're thinking in general rankings?
Right.
Yeah, of course. What we in my line of work, where I need to focus on where Denmark is better than others. Sometimes it is a competition. Then I of course need to focus on which level is the best one. And we of course just in general use different analytics that has been made by innovation scorecard or scoreboard and so forth, and I think that in general Denmark ranks pretty high within innovation, within digitalization, within all these areas. I can imagine if you looked a deep dive into the ecosystem, then in Denmark you will see a concentration around Copenhagen and Aarhus, of course, which is the 2 largest cities. But compared to, let's say, Silicon Valley, where Mads is, I think it's quite difficult to make a competition in this, because it's just so much larger. And but what you could say is that there might also be more failures in a larger area. So I think if you compare it, then it might be possible to say that that we are as good as anywhere else, and
I'm sure Mads is waiting out there.
I can chip in if there's no questions waiting. I can maybe refine that further. Of course, having lived in California for a long time, I also appreciate the positive differences between the US and Danish culture. And one of the key elements is actually also the way employment is structured. So in Denmark, because of the social security system, it's very, very easy to quit your job and move somewhere else. It's also, I would say, fortunately, fairly easy for an employer to fire someone, knowing that they're not going to lose their social support system. They'll still have full health care. So that the whole system is set up for flexibility, where in the US, I mean, you hear all the good stories about how top talent can move around, and that's true for top talent. But in order to have a well-functioning ecosystem, you also need regular people who are doing, I'm not going to mention any job functions because they're top talent and regular people in all job functions. But you have menial tasks that need to be solved in every company also. And those people, if they have a hard time moving around, then your company is not going to be as flexible and as agile. So there's some competitive parameters here where Denmark really score top.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So Shankar, do you want to put up some closing notes and then we can? Yes, Shankar, go ahead. Okay, not able to hear you, Shankar. Okay, maybe, Jasper, any closing note and then?
Yeah, I'll just say that, if people are more interested in what Denmark has to offer, then please feel free to reach out to Shankar and me. And then we can, of course, elaborate on this really. We just scratched the surface, of course, in these 25 minutes. But yeah.
Sure then. Mads, any closing comments, Mads?
I think no. I'm actually doing the closing keynote in a couple of hours,
right,
so I would want to make a.
Sure. We're going to meet you back. Shankar, if you can hear quickly, you can say something, or else I think we have to end the session. Okay, I think we lost him. Okay, no worries. So thank you so much, Mads. Thank you, Jasper, for your time. Thank you, Shankar.
Thank you.
And guys, we're going to be back with the next session in a minute's time. Thank you so much. Hold on.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.